This is the CMF Pro 2 by Nothing, and initially I loved this watch, and I thought it was a great improvement over the original CMF watch. But after wearing it for a month, I'm going to give you my opinion, which is just a little less rosy. I'm going to talk about the specs that I think are important. I'll give you my opinion of them. Then I'll go over the features, which ones work, which ones don't. Then I'll fill in all the details about the watch and the phone app, and wrap things up. Okay, I think we're about 30 seconds in, and I think we got rid of all the less committed viewers. Now it's just you and me. Well, hopefully not literally just you and me. Thanks to all my subscribers and returning viewers and new viewers. When I get a new watch and a new gadget, usually I do a full review on it, then I go back and do a tips and tricks video, and I show you all the hidden features that are available. The software on the CMF Watch Pro 2 is pretty basic, so I'm just going to combine everything into one, hopefully reasonable length video. The CMF Watch Pro 2 added gesture controls, which work pretty good. But there's just a little bit of a delay. That was one gesture, and then the other gesture that you can do is just shaking your hands like this, and that will open up something else. This is the voice assistant app of the watch. And let's go ahead and open it up, and then when it does, it just opens up the assistant on my phone, which is kind of needless. I don't know why this even exists, but that's one of the apps that are available. So the CMF Watch Pro 2 did add a rotating crown. It feels very sturdy to me, and actually it works perfectly. Most frequently you're going to be using this to go through your app selection here, and it does give you nice haptic feedback, and I think this is the only watch in this price range that has the rotating crown. If you find another one, go ahead and leave it in the comments. The watch is made out of aluminum alloy. The back is plastic. It is IP68 rated, but there is no military certification on this. The bezel is raised, which is actually nice. It does give it a little protection to the screen, and you're likely going to need it because the screen, I couldn't find what the screen material is made out of, so that likely means that it's just tempered glass, and I have no idea how it passed the steel wool test, but I wouldn't try that on your watch. This is the original CMF Watch Pro, and you can see this is a rectangular design, and then they switched to the round design here. You know, I guess it's whatever preference you like, but if you could look at the bezels here, on the original one, the bezels were quite chunky, and on this one the bezels are quite chunky as well, but you don't see that black edge bezel as much because it's got a physical bezel that's actually covering it, which is kind of a nice design, and I think it makes it look a little sharper. So I did do a full review of the CMF Watch Pro, and there's some pros and cons on that one as well, so I'll leave a link for the full review on that if you are interested. Now the watch here, like I said, it is a little smaller here, but I think it does fit pretty nicely on small and large wrists. It's just kind of right in that medium size range. So this bezel actually can be changed. It does have a little logo here on the side if you could see it, but all you need to do is just kind of rotate it counterclockwise. It does take a little effort to get it going, but then this comes off, and to match it up you can see there's a little red dot over here and there's a little red dot here. Now when you put these on, you have to kind of be a little careful because you can kind of put it on there and it looks like it's on, but it really isn't. When you put it on, you gotta snap it in. I don't know if you could hear it on the video here. That little click, and then you know it's in there all the way, because you can put it on and it looks like it's all the way on, but if you don't get that last click, this will fall off pretty easily. Now, the bezel design here, you can change this, but unfortunately, there's not all that many options later. I'll get into that in just a minute. The watch is able to make and take phone calls, which actually sounded very good on it, but I wouldn't be doing any job interview or anything really important on here, because keep in mind, it's just a watch. So let me show you what it looks like when you get a phone call. I'm just going to blur out the name here, but the name's right on the top, and you can either reject it or answer it. Then, of course, if you answer it, then you get these options. You can end it, you could put it back onto the phone, and then you got the volume right here. You just click, and you could adjust the volume very easily. I made a couple of phone calls with this, and it sounded clear on my end, and the other person thought it sounded clear as well. Then when you're done, just go ahead and hit end. You could download up to 30 contacts onto the watch, and there is a dialer on here, so you could make phone calls directly from the watch, but of course, you're still going to need to be connected to the phone through Bluetooth for it to work. There is no LTE version on this. Now, what about text? Well, the texts are pretty basic. You can get notifications from just about every app you have, and WhatsApp works on this, and all the other messaging services work that I tested. But the responses that you can do is pretty basic, and also the text coming in, there's going to be no images on them, and there's going to be no emojis or anything like that. As of now, that might update with some software, but for now, that's what you're limited to. And so if you swipe up, you get your notifications, and you can see here, this is just WhatsApp there. This is a notification I sent, and those are the emojis. They come out just as, you know, little squares. And if you just want to try to do something with the text, this is what you get. You could, reply if you hit this, or you could ignore it. Some of the notifications you get, you won't even be able to reply to them, so the only option is just ignore it. The other frustrating thing about the text is that all of them will stay on there forever unless you delete them. So if you don't delete them every day, then again, they just keep adding up, and it gets a little unmanageable. So I wish, like, after on some watches, after like 24 hours, the messages just automatically disappear, which would be nice. So this is the Z Fold 6, and the CMF app is not optimized for a foldable screen yet, so I usually use it just on the front screen, but for the video I'll show you here, and I'm just going to show you what the text quick replies look like. You go here, and I'll go into this a little more in detail in a bit, but I just wanted to show you these are the texts that you get, and you could add a quick reply if you want. Then you could type out whatever you want. You can see here 140 characters, that's quite a bit. And then of course, if you want to edit any of these, if you have one, you just want to make a modification to them, or you want to just change one of these, you hit it here, and then you could just type whatever you want and change it. And then if you don't like it, you could just delete it and then add whichever text that you want. And then when you get the text, you just scroll through these and pick which one you want to use. Okay, the first thing that I noticed with the watch, and you would probably notice too, is that this watch band is incredibly cheap looking and feeling. It's comfortable, but it's super cheap. CMF says this is made out of leather, but this is like, I don't know, just cheap stuff here. It feels like a 1978 Timex that I had. Really cheap stuff here. The orange and the blue bands come in this material. The other two bands come in like liquid silicone band, which is probably more comfortable, more like the original CMF, I think. But first, just wanted to show you the beautiful thing is, even though this is a cheap, lousy band, you got a quick release here. So any 22mm band, you can just kind of take these out and put anything else in there, which is great. And actually, honestly, when I changed the bands, it made the watch look much better and actually work better, believe it or not. Now, I thought CMF was onto something when they had these interchangeable bezels that they have, but I think they missed it, because it would have been great of them to have, like to sell like packs of 3 or 4 of them with some different colors you could actually use and maybe change depending on what you were wearing, or maybe just change it to some different funky colors or something like that. But as of now, there's only 4 available, and you actually have to buy the band and the bezel together as a set, or maybe CMF is going to come up with some more in the future. But again, there's only the 4 colors here, and you can see there's like a rounded one, a flat one, and then you got, like I said, the 2 different colors on them. So I think they missed it with, they could have easily had a whole bunch of different colors and designs on this, would have made the watch a little more exciting. Now, they made a lot of improvements on this watch, but there are still some cons on here. But keep in mind, this watch is only $69 in the United States. So $69 for a watch that has a lot of features. I'll get into more stuff that it can do and the sensors that it has. So I think it's a pretty good value so far, but let's talk about some more stuff. Another big benefit of this watch is the battery life. You get 9 to 11 days on this, and this is not an oversell. I actually got that several times. But that was with the always-on display off. Now, if you have the always display on all the time and you're using a lot of GPS, then your battery life will definitely go quicker. If you're a heavy user, you might be able to knock it down to 4 or 5 or 6 days or so. And the battery size is a 305 milliamp battery, which is nothing special. But, the software is pretty light here. And like I said, if you can get 9 to 11 days out of it, that's pretty good, I think. Now, one day this will change, but as of now, we still got proprietary battery charging cables. So you got a USB-A here, and this is the little pins here. This is the same one that came with the original CMF watch. So if you do have that, you have 2 chargers now. And then putting it on here, you got to put it on just right. If it can't go on the wrong side, so you got to twist it and do this. And putting this on, the magnet is actually not that strong. So if you put it on a flat surface, that's fine. Several times I've put this down and put it on a pile or something like that, and it just kind of falls off. So when I set this up, I usually put it down like I'm putting an egg back in the nest, and then I back away slowly like I just put a newborn to bed. But that's me. Now, the charging speed is, about average, maybe a little below average, but you go from 0 to 100% in about 100 minutes. And if you're interested, there's a power saving mode, aka clock, which basically does nothing. And you can get up to 45 days of battery life if you use that feature. But again, it's just a clock. So this is a 1.32-inch AMOLED display, and nothing added auto brightness to this, which is nice. It wasn't available on the first generation watch. This usually gets the right brightness for me. Sometimes companies make the auto dim a little too dim to try to save some battery, but this one I felt was just right. Now, the issue with this auto brightness is that it takes like 2 seconds for it to actually adjust to the correct brightness, which is just a little frustrating and definitely noticeable. The resolution is 466 by 466, and that's great for a budget watch, but nothing in style of the retro dot matrixy kind of fonts kind of cheapens the resolution a little bit, and it makes it look like the resolution's worse than it is. Let me see if I could show you a watch face that has that. So like this kind of, watch face here, you can see, that's their style. That's Nothing style, but I just don't care for that. I like to have it, the detailed fonts. But there are watch faces that have, small fonts, and they're very easy to read on this. No issues with that. The brightness on this is 620 nits, which is great for everything except direct sunlight. For an AMOLED screen, some of the colors were just a little washed out and, just wasn't as punchy as other screens that I've had. And also just talking about changing watch faces, all you need to do is hold it like this, just kind of like on every other smartwatch, and then you could just kind of rotate through stuff. For some reason, this one really dazzled me for a while. That was, so I got a little distracted when I did that. But let's move on. There's an always-on display on this. Let me just show you the options on that. We got to go down into settings. We go into here, and we're just going to go into display. And then the always-on display watch face. Now, you can enable it, turn it on, but then if you click on the watch face, for some reason, the rotating crown doesn't work with this. So, like I said, the software is still kind of needs a little bit of tweaking, but now you could just slide here, and these are your different options for the watch faces. It doesn't matter what your actual watch face is. This is going to be the always-on display, so it doesn't match what you have. But there's a couple on there if you like. You have two options for your app. So if you hit the button here, you get into your app screen. And then again, the rotating crown works perfectly here. And this is the list view. And that worked perfectly. Let me just show you the other option here. We're going to go into settings. I'm going to go into app view here. And then we're going to go into grid view. And now when you hit this, this is what you get, which I don't really like at all. But, I guess they're trying to do like an Apple kind of thing, but it just doesn't really work out. So let me just show you the basic navigation here. You just swipe down. We're going to get the Do Not Disturb. This is activating your power saving mode. This is to wake the wrist. You could turn that on or not. That's when you flip your wrist, the screen turns on. This is actually that updated feature. So you got your brightness there, but then also we'll click it one more and you get into the auto brightness, which is kind of nice. And you can see the little bit of delay there. We'll just keep it on that for the video. You got a flashlight, and then this is your settings. So if you swipe across here, you get all your widgets, and actually all these are very customizable, which is, I think, a pretty good feature for this kind of software and this kind of price. So that is actually nice. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. You swipe up, you get your notifications, and then of course, if you go this way, you just get the widgets going in the kind of an endless loop, and this button takes you to your apps, and then if you hit it again, it goes back to the home screen. So I could not find any specifications of the watch for the RAM or the chip or the memory details. None of that seemed available, so that usually means that it's nothing special. But navigating to the watch was actually very smooth. Calling on some of the functions, like the gestures and things like that, sometimes it took a second or two, and it was definitely noticeable, and you can almost kind of see the watch thinking about where it needs to go, and then eventually it got there. So it's a $69 watch. But most of the functions worked pretty well and very smooth. Again, just there was a little bit of a delay on activating some things. Now, a big concern, and this was a big concern on the original watch, is that it frequently loses the Bluetooth connection with my phone. And you don't get a disconnect announcement, so you don't know what's going on, and you're looking like a fool thinking you're connected and thinking you're getting all your notifications. So then you go to check your phone, and then you realize you missed a whole bunch of notifications, including several opportunities to work from home and how to invest in gold. Now, the latest software has seemed to fix this a little bit, so I only had like one disconnection this week. But again, the disconnections happened when I was wearing the watch to sleep, and my phone was right next to me on the nightstand charging. So they were like, 5 feet from each other, 2 feet from each other. It would still disconnect. So that was, like I said, a very big issue. I hope they fix that. It has been working very well so far with the last software update. Now, let me just show you, there's a couple of things that you can do to ensure that it gives it the best chance of not disconnecting. So let me show you that stuff. Obviously, you have to give CMF all the permissions that it asks for, and you also have to make sure your battery saving options on your phone are set to have the CMF app never put to sleep. Okay, now in the CMF app, you go into the last part of the app over here, and I'm going to blur up my name up here, but then you got to go into the settings gear. And on the folded phone, the gear would be over here. So just so you know, but we're going to find this little gear here in background protection. Click that, and you got to turn this on. This was a new update on the software that this little feature came in, and it was off by default. So you got to toggle that on. I don't know why it would be off by default, but it was for mine. Okay, so the CMF Watch Pro 2 does have all the usual fitness tracking features and sleep tracking. It does have the heart rate, the SpO2, and the stress monitoring. But let's talk about the heart rate accuracy, or the lack of it. So I tested this several times, and the heart rate was accurate once it kind of got up to speed. So meaning that it was terrible at doing any kind of interval training, or even if you're starting your run or your exercise or whatever you're doing, your heart rate is obviously low, and then it picks up. It took a long time for the heart rate to actually catch up to where you were. Sometimes over 2 minutes. So, I mean, it was kind of crazy. So any of that data would be lost. And if you're doing any kind of intensive interval training where your heart rate is going up and down quite a bit, this is going to miss probably all of it. But if you are, going for a bike ride or, running on the treadmill or something like that, and you get up to your exercise and you're just going to keep going for half an hour, then the heart rate should be very accurate. It's just the up and downs that this missed, completely. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So there's another odd thing about the fitness tracking, and that is that the heart rate was either on all the time or off. There was no in between. So let me just show you this. We're in this part of the CMF app. And again, I'll go into this a little more detail in a few minutes, and I'll show you everything on the app. But we're just going to go into health monitoring here. And you can see heart monitoring. These are your options here. But let's click on that. And you can see here it's either continuous or off. There is no in between. There is no heart rate detection every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever you want. There is nothing. You do get a high resting heart rate, a low resting heart rate, and a high activity heart rate alert if you're interested in those. Then you got the blood oxygen monitoring, same thing. It's either on or off. There is no frequency durations that you can set, and then you do have a low blood oxygen alert if you want that. Stress monitoring, it's either on or off. Again, there is no adjustments on that, which is usually available on other watches. Okay, and now also just to clarify, again, this is a little bit of a budget watch, but there is no NFC on here, so you can't make any mobile payments with this. There is no Wi-Fi, there's no compass, there's no barometer, there's no temperature sensor, but I really don't expect those at this price range. Again, it's $69, but just wanted to let you know what you're getting. Also, in case you were wondering, you can't store any music on this watch, and you can't pair the buds with the watch. And you also can't pair any kind of fitness devices or heart rate straps or anything like that with the watch. It's just not able to do any of that stuff. But you can control the music that's coming from your phone very easily, and that worked perfect for me. So let me just show you the music app here. We just got to find it quick. Pretty standard music app. Okay, so let me just get into an exercise here to show you. Let's just pick anything, and we're just going to go. And we're going to skip the GPS lock. And here we are. I just want to show you this is the workout tracking, and then you got the music app here. So you're able to do that while you're working out. Not every watch was able to do that. The first generation wasn't. So you'd just be locked into this, and you wouldn't be able to control the music. So that's a nice feature that they added. So multitasking doesn't really work that well on this watch. So if you want to use your stopwatch and your timer at the same time, you can't. One will end before you start the other one. If you are using your stopwatch, and it will run in the background, which is good, so you can go back to your watch face and the stopwatch could be running in the background. But then there's no quick way to get back to the stopwatch. You actually have to go back, find it, and go into the actual app, open up the app all over again, which is kind of not that great. I don't usually use this, but there is no lock on the watch as well. And you don't have too much information on here, but if you did add your contacts, and people would have access to your notifications and things like that. So it might be a nice feature, to have. So the GPS is a single band with 5 satellite systems, and I found this to actually be fairly accurate, but I don't have any real big obstructions by me. If you have a lot of trees and buildings around you, that might reduce your accuracy. The other negative is that it took a very long time for this to lock. And it sometimes took several minutes for the lock on the GPS to happen. I'm not sure what's going on with that. The software on this is proprietary software. It's light and mostly basic. There's no third-party apps on here. There's no Google Play. There's no Apple Store. And there's no way to add any other apps from the Nothing Store or anything like that. So the apps that are included are all you're going to get. And again, so, these are the apps. You got all the basics here, obviously. You do get a timer, stress monitor. You do get a world clock. There's a reminder on here. You get a stopwatch, the camera remote. The camera remote actually did not work at all for me. On the original CMF watch, if you opened up the camera app on your phone, then the watch was actually able to control it very well. On this one, honestly, it didn't work at all for me. Nothing I could do to get it to work. So if you got it to work, put it in the comments. But there's really not too many other adjustments I can make to get that to work. But here's the rest of the apps that are available. Again, that voice assistant, that was kind of useless. But there's a couple other ones there. They also did add a calendar app on this. I did complain about this on the original CMF video that I made, that there was no calendar app. I could not believe it. Obviously, the Nothing company is watching my videos and listening to all my advice, so that's wonderful. But they did add a calendar app, and it's just a basic calendar app, but a lot of times I use that, so it's nice to have it. Another improvement over the original watch is that the Find My Phone feature actually works on this watch. On the other one, the original one, it didn't work at all for me, but this one worked perfectly, and I tested that several times. So that's nice that they have been improving things. You do get the standard sleep tracking on this. You got deep, core, REM, and awake, and it also does record your naps. It seemed that the going to sleep and wake up times were accurate on this, or pretty accurate, but the different zones I don't think were very accurate. This is just a snapshot of the sleep from last night, and you could just see here, I don't think I go through that many cycles, so that wasn't accurate. And then if I compare these with other watches, again, it was just kind of different. Sometimes it's just very variable. So the sleep zones, I don't have too much faith in, but the actual total time is probably does seem about right. So you could use this maybe for some big picture kind of sleep patterns, if you're trying to get better sleep or trying to change your behavior. but the actual sleep data didn't seem all that accurate. Again, that's another thing they can fix with software. I wouldn't buy the watch waiting for software updates. Okay, this is as good of time of any to show you the settings on the watch. So I showed you the quick panel, but if you just slide down here, we go into the settings. These are pretty basic. So the watch face and settings, basically just change your watch face. You can hold up to 6 in here, I believe. And then if they have a little gear down here, that means you can change something on them, but it was very limited changing. Like you can change this blue bar to a different color or something like that. You really couldn't change any complications on here, and there are no shortcuts on here. So if you hit anything on here, on other watches, it might take you to, the weather app or, your alarm or something like that. For this one, there is no shortcuts that I found on any of the watches. Getting back to the settings. Let's go here and then app view. That's where you change it from the grid to the default view. I showed you that. And then we're going to go into the display and brightness. You can see here where we got, the brightness. You could, I don't need to explain everything here, but they do have the double tap to wake, which is a software update that they added, and the notification to wake. So the double tap, you just tap the screen, obviously it turns on, but then also when you do get a notification, the screen will turn on. So I don't know about you, but I do love that feature. And if I just look at the watch, when I hear the notification go off, I'll actually see what it is, which is nice. I don't have to reopen anything. Sounds here, pretty basic there. Return to watch. Again, that just shows you, how long you want it to be until you get back to the watch face. Do not disturb. Self-explanatory here. The quick gestures. So this is the quick gestures that you can do, and you have two. You could rotate your wrist once, so you got to rotate it out and then pull it back, and then that will activate something. And then if you shake your arm, it tells you if you just keep it horizontal and shake it, you'll get the other app that you want to open. It gives you a little guide there, but I'll just show you what is available. Basically everything that you would want. So it just shows you that. Then these are the apps you can do. So this is really nice if you're getting a phone call or something like that. You can reject the call if your hands, your hands are not free. And then all these things you can do. And this is the same list on the other gesture. So there are a lot of different things that you could use. If there's an app that you constantly use or anything, you can go ahead and set it for that. And the gestures, they did actually work very good. Probably 95% of the time I can get it to activate. It's just, again, there was that delay. So it was like you don't know if you actually activated it or not, and then you waited 2 seconds, and then it will pop up to what it was, the app that you activated. Okay, there are 120 workouts available on this, which I always say that's about probably 100 more than you need. But if you go into the app here, we're in the middle here. We're just going to common sports. These are the apps. I mean, all the basics here are here. I think you'll probably find anything that you're looking for. It also has an auto detect feature on here, and it will auto detect 5 workouts, including outdoor running, outdoor walking, indoor walking, and outdoor cycling. But I found the auto detect to be very bad. It didn't detect much of anything. And there was also a significant delay when it actually did detect something. There was a lot of workouts that I had that other watches were picking it up, and this one didn't. So that doesn't work so well. But you could always just manually engage your exercise, and then if you turn off the auto workout detection, then it just saves more batteries. Now you do get 100 plus watch faces, and the bonus is that they are all free. There is no charges on any of these. A lot of other companies have, half are free and then half are $1 or $2, which, I feel is a little nickel and dime in me. So these are all free, which is great. Now, again, none of the watch faces that I came across had any kind of shortcuts on them, and the customizations on them are very minimal. You can change a color here or there, but that was about it. Not all the watch faces even had any customization. So they're pretty basic. This is the watch faces that are available, and a couple of them have more categories. Some of the categories have a few in here. Some of them, don't have a lot. But if you scroll down here, I mean, there's pretty significant amount of different watch faces, a lot of different kind of patterns and colors and things like that. So I think you could probably find one that you like. Now, another important thing is how long is this going to be supported for? Well, nothing gives any promises on what the software support is going to be or how long it's going to be, but they have actually given a lot of software updates in the beginning. But this is a closed ecosystem. There's no third-party apps or anything on the outside that they really have to conform to. So as long as they fix the bugs on this, I think you're pretty much good to go for probably a long time. I just wouldn't expect any new features to be added with this. Mostly it seems that when they do software updates, it's mostly just fixing the bugs that are in there. So I went through the CMF app quickly, some parts of it. Let me just give you the whole rundown here. So if you go to the beginning of the CMF app, this basically, this little heart here has all your sleep data, your heart rate, your exercise data, all that kind of stuff that you could see. There's nothing editable on this. There's nothing you can add or take away at all. So this is basically your little exercise routine here, and it shows you the map of where you are, and you can start an exercise. It's not too useful here. So basically the only thing you can do here is change goals, which I noticed, distance, duration and calories, so you could change those goals if you want, and you could also do it in another spot in the app. I'll show you that. This is the watch settings, I guess you would call it. So this is the watch that you have. This is where you change your watch faces. This is the common sports. You can move the order of those up and down if you'd like. The health monitoring I showed you, this is where you can add some contacts. The widgets, let me show you this one, because this is actually a pretty nice feature that you have the 4 widgets here, and if you want to edit them, you could just kind of move them up and down or delete them if you want. So if you want to move them up and down, you just do this, and that's it, and you can delete it if you want. But now if you go back and you just tap one of them, so then you can see these, you could minus any of these parts out, and then you could add any of these in its place. So which is pretty nice, and there's some more that are available over here. So you can actually modify your widgets quite a bit here, which is kind of a nice feature for such a a basic software and such a basic watch. So that's a pretty nice thing that you can do. And then just get back into here. There's not too much else going on. This is the quick replies. This is where you can change your quick replies there. So we go into more here. This is where the find devices. The do not disturb you can turn on. Wake on wrist. Again, you could just enable it, pretty simple stuff. You would think you'd be able to schedule that, but you can't on this software. And then workout detection, you could either turn it on or off. Again, other software and other watches, you could turn it on for certain exercises and turn it off for other ones. But again, this is fairly basic. But there's also a pretty low learning curve on this, so that's nice as well. And then if we go into here, got to blur out your name on top here, but this is the daily goal. Again, you can change these if you want, and it will give you a reminder, hey, you're almost made it or whatever. So that is sometimes if you're not really a fitness buff, but you just want to kind of keep track of your activity and maybe a goal of being more active, then you could just change these a little bit and, standing time, exercise time, so you don't have to be doing anything too aggressive. It's just a matter of getting up and about and being less sedentary. So this watch would actually be good for someone like that. And this is a couple other things that are there. Then if you go up here, there's a little setting here. Again, that's the background protection. We got to turn that on. And then you could sync it actually with third-party apps, with these 2 apps there, which is, again, a new feature that they added. And that the color theme you can change if you wanted to. And then the unit settings, you could change those if that's what you were looking for. You wanted to be in something different. That's where you would change it. Okay, so let's wrap this thing up. You've been with me for a long time now. Thank you. And if you liked the video a little bit, please consider subscribing. If you didn't like it, well, consider subscribing. I have other videos that you might like more. And please like it, maybe share it. That really helps me out a lot. I appreciate you staying with me for this long. If you just fast forwarded to the end of the video, then, well, I can't stop you from doing that. But here is the wrap up. This is the pros of the watch. Well, obviously you got a great battery life on this thing. The price, that's definitely a pro, $69 US. That's wonderful. You get a rotating bezel on here, which is great. The other pros are you get an AMOLED display here. You get an auto brightness on there. You get built-in GPS, which is awesome. You're able to make and take phone calls on this. So you're actually able to do a lot of things on this. It is also compatible with Android and Apple, which is great. And I didn't mention this in the video, but the vibration mode is actually pretty strong. So I don't think you would miss any alerts with this vibration, and it should be enough to wake you up in the morning. So another pro is that it has the quick release band here, so there's no proprietary band, and you can change this out with any 22mm band, which is wonderful. I hate when watches do a proprietary band. The cons, this band, getting back to it, is super cheap feeling. This is the blue and the orange are the same material. The other 2 are made, I think, of this kind of material. It's like liquid silicone, which is much more comfortable, and it just looks much higher quality. I mean, it probably doesn't cost much more, but it just feels much better. The other cons are the accuracy of this, the fitness tracking with the heart rate, especially the sleep tracking. It's just not as accurate as it should be, and that could be improved with software updates, but again, don't buy the watch thinking you're going to get these things fixed. There is no NFC here. The text alerts are kind of limited. Again, there's no images, there's no emojis. There's very limited reply abilities with this. You only get the quick replies. There's no keyboard or speech to text or anything like that, so definitely limited, but it does take the phone calls very well. There's no LTE version on this, so you need to have, to make phone calls or get texts or notifications or anything like that, you need to have your watch hooked up to your phone, and you need your phone with you. Also, for some reason, notifications don't always come through consistently. Sometimes I just miss some, but for the most part, I got them as long as it was connected. The other con is the frequent losses of connection with your phone, which was very frustrating. I don't know why that was such an issue. It looks like they fixed that with the new software update. So who is this watch for? If you're an extreme athlete, obviously you're not buying this watch. But if you're someone who doesn't want to spend a lot of money on a watch, you're on a budget, or you just don't want to spend that much money on a watch, and you do want some of the fitness tracking, you want to maybe keep track of some of your exercises, set some goals for yourself, yourself to be a little more active every day, I think this watch would be very good for that. Also for someone who's maybe not even concerned in the fitness stuff, but they want to watch so they don't miss notifications. They want the ability to make and take phone calls on their watch. So if their phone is in a bag or something like that, they don't always have to go grab their phone just to, make a quick call or something. This watch would definitely be good for them. And like I said, for $69, I think it is a very good value. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you subscribe, turn on the notifications, like the video, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you.